I recently read through Rush V's book Bang, and I don't want to say it was completely devoid of anything that was good. There was a little bit of information in there about like setting realistic goals for yourself, wherein he tells his audience like you have to set goals for yourself that are somewhat out of your reach, so that way you have something to work toward. However, that advice is something that, well, it seems like was just taken out of any other self-help literature. And so it felt relatively uninspired. And even then, it felt like what little good came out of that was undercut by the whole like, yeah, and if you set unrealistic goals, you'll be banging women in no time flat. It was kind of undercut by the whole like weird PUA element to it. But that's like the whole appeal of this book, right? Is it's going to teach you how to bang women. But the problem is, like immediately when you open up the book, it's got this big like, hey, this book is actually not a cure-all. It's actually not super successful because it's a pick and mix. You got to pick the advice that'll work for you, and then find out how to make it work. At which point it's like, can you really call this a pickup Bible if we have to do all the legwork and your audience has to decide like, okay, I gotta find out how this works for me? I don't understand it. I don't understand why this guy got popular if like the book he's selling, immediately when you open it, just says, hey, I don't work. Woo! Rush's actual prose is very simplistic. The way he like was drawn into PUA and being a pickup artist was because he was spurned by rejection and by a girl he was interested in not being like into him. And I guess I kind of like understood that because, you know, it sucks to get rejected. But like at the same time, it's like, that's the only part of this book where Rush comes off as like slightly human. And even then, I still don't understand Rush as like a person on any level. It's just like, that was something that happened to you. And it's like, well, how do you feel about that? Like, what's your reaction to it? Because like the entire book, it's just like, okay, men, this is how you get women. And I'm like, okay. And I never, like, you never get a read on Rush V as a person. You never get a read on his hopes and dreams. Like, you get that. It's like, he was like, yeah, I used to be insecure, but now I'm just a big old strong man that gets lots of women. Except for the fact that 75% of the time, these methods do not work. The book purports itself to be like a transition, like helping him transition from being like meek to being like successful and strong, but like so far it seems like the only thing that really changed was like presentation style and the fact that Rush can trick people into buying his merchandise. I cracked the case! There was a lot of things that annoyed me about this book, but the two biggest ones was that the book had no idea how to like transition from one topic to another. The biggest example of this was when Rush was talking about like approaching women just out there in the open, right? And he was like, look, you need to go up and you need to talk to as many women as possible. I know it's scary, but you need to get over that fear. You need to get over it because when you finally cross that hump, it's gonna feel amazing. You're gonna feel like you're on top of the mountain. But like then the very next chapter or the very next section, he's like, you just need to cut all those people that aren't interested in you or have no like desire to be around you out of your life. And it just felt like a radical change from it because like the first part was like, look, any women who will look at you, who will just acknowledge your existence, who will breathe in your general direction, who will sneeze at you, you need to glom onto them. You need to be like a barnacle on the side of their ship. And then like less than an hour later, less than 20 minutes later, he was like, cut them unworthy bitches out of your life. It just felt it just felt too soon. It didn't feel like there was a good point where it was like, so in conclusion, now we're moving on to. Like, it didn't feel like there was an adequate transition. The other thing was just there are just certain like shitty comments by Rush where it's just like, oh my god, why would you say that? The first one was when he was like, only homosexuals and drug users get HIV and AIDS, which was really crappy. Sorry, I dropped my notes. The second thing was Roosh V's description of grinding in a club. And I don't doubt that Roosh V has had a lot of sex. However, his description of grinding made it sound like he was like a Quaker or a nun, and he has never actually seen his own genitalia before. Because he was like... It was like jamming your penis into someone's ass. It was something like that. It was something so, like... How could you say that? Like, how could you say it like that? How could you write that, rather? Because, like... It was just embarrassing. And God bless the narrator, because he didn't laugh. And I wish he did, because I died laughing. It was amazing. There was also the distinction Roosh V tried to make between alpha males and beta males, which didn't make sense to me. Like, I get that he was like, alpha males are strong and they don't ask permission, and they just take charge sexually, and they do what they want. They're motivated by their desires and all that jazz. It's like beta males, they're like led by other people, and they want to make sure other people are happy, and it's like, I get that. But then he's like, alpha males and beta males could literally both be doing the exact same action. Like, literally, like, alpha males and beta males could both be buying a woman dinner and both be opening a door for a woman. Like, literally be both doing the same thing, but one is an alpha and one is a beta. Why? Because an alpha is doing it because he wants to, but a beta is doing it to please a woman. And I'm like, surely an alpha could be doing it because he wants to, and because he likes the feeling of pleasing a woman. Liking a woman and pleasing a woman are not opposites. Freudian analysis time, Roosh. This is pretty obviously a way for Roosh to try and put himself, like, on a pedestal. Let me get on this chair. Let me stand on this chair. On a pedestal, the chair is spinning. This is clearly a way for Roosh V to put himself on a pedestal so that, like, he's up here and all the other people are down here, and it's because he felt inferior than everybody else when he was a nerd that wasn't getting no ass. And so now that he's getting tons of ass, he's got to put the nerds down here because he still feels like a nerd. He can't get over it. So that's why he's got to call everybody else nerds, because he's got to play into that system, man. But I'll tell you what, Roosh, I'll tell you one thing, buddy. You're always gonna be a nerd to me, pal.